This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Half hour being brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews. The best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drink, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and out every day. 6 great flavors of slushies. And ready-to-drink cocktails. High Noon, Jack Daniel's, Crown Royal. It's all at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Despite repeated requests from Keegan Bradley, Nate Bauer will not be playing in the Ryder Cup.
But I will be watching.
Oh, we all will be. No doubt about that. No doubt.
Perfect timing for a Penn State night game, no less.
Yes, I know. So, speaking of which, yeah. Important bye week. The coordinators had a chance to talk with the media on Zoom the other day. What was your take from what you heard from the coordinators? Yeah,
I thought that Jim Knowles was generally pleased with, kind of how they've played thus far on the defensive side of the ball. I think that he is. It's funny, I actually just got done writing about it. He, like everyone else in the world, understands that they need to play somebody who's good, who can throw the ball, right? They haven't faced a passing attack that will be just remotely as good as what Oregon will do. So, the cornerbacks have been good. They still haven't been tested. It's nobody's fault. Right? They've made progress and strides as a defense, but you can only play the team that you're playing against that week. And he more or less acknowledged that, it's going to be he will learn at the same time as everyone else how good this defense really is.
And what about Andy's part of it? Now, I'm going to guess he was asked about Drew and he was going to be asked about Singleton. So what were his responses?
Surprise, surprise. Andy was not available. It was actually Justin Lustig, so they did Knowles and Lustig. Yeah, crazy the timing, right? Knowles and Lustig this week, and then my assumption is that it's going to be Chuck Losey and Andy available for the second bye week, which is obviously the last weekend in October. But Justin Lustig was very happy, right? They knew this offseason that of all of the areas of room for growth that impact winning, a return game, really kick return and punt return, was a huge piece of that, right? That there was there wasn't a deficiency, but that they could really start to impact games on special teams by doing that. And so far, so good, right? King Mack has been good on kickoff returns, and now they've got Devontae Ross kind of settling in there at punt returns. So generally pleased from Lustig and kind of what they've done so far on special teams.
Yeah, the return part of it, Ross on punts, to me there are two keys to a punt. Number one, you have to have something back there and catch it. I don't care anything else that happens after that. And number two, you have to have judgment, and it looks like he has both.
Yep. Yeah, and that was a big part of what stood out about him at Troy was he had been excellent there at punt return. And some of those guys, like, it's interesting to hear college coaches talk about it because they acknowledge that it's you know it when you see it kind of situation. Right? Like, you know, right. Some of these guys you just don't know. You don't, like, you might see it in practice and it's fine, and once they get out there in the game, it is just it is a very, very unique skill set to do punt returns, right? It just the trajectory of the ball and all of the different things that go into it at that position, and you're the only guy doing it back there. It really takes, a very unique skill set.
Okay, so when you've talked to the other players on the offense, what have they said to you? Look, we know what's bugging the fans. What's bugging the fans, they think Drew needs to be better, and they think Singleton needs to be better. Okay, yep. I got it. I hear it. Whatever. So what are the other players telling you about those two guys?
No, that's a good question. Look, I can tell you what Nick said, right, which is after the most recent game, he has not been as much of a part of the passing game as he probably will become. Yep. He acknowledged that they probably haven't shown everything that they're going to do offensively, which is
I'm shocked.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, surprise. It's such an interesting conversation that's happening right now because it feels like everybody's being forced to choose between they're working on stuff, right? They're focusing on the things that they're not good at, and they were intentional about that and spent these first 3 preseason games, right, as a testing ground when there's no real consequence to making mistakes. Okay, that's one train of thought. The other train of thought is they're not as good as everyone said, right? This team, this offense specifically, Drew and Nick, the replacement for Tyler Warren, the receivers, right? They're just not as good. Hate me for this if you want. I think there might be a little bit of both in there, right? That, and this is not me going out on a limb. This is a messaged point James Franklin has said. Really, he was messaging it back in the preseason, right? Even before the preseason, that they really wanted to acclimate Drew and these 3 new receivers. So they were going to do some things to work on that, right? That was intentional. But then on Tuesday this week, when James met with the media, he talked about, and I'm super interested in this because it's so important to who this team is and what it can become, which is that he had a meeting earlier that day with 8 players, right, who all have shown flashes of their potential, but have not consistently been and I'm paraphrasing here, but they haven't consistently been the best version of themselves. That's Drew. That's 2 running backs. That is 3 receivers, at least, maybe 4. That's Khalil Dinkins, right? Luke Reynolds. And it's just about this notion of Abdul Carter last season and Tyler Warren just had spectacular plays. They had game-defining plays. When everybody in the building knew where the ball was going or knew that Abdul Carter was going for a sack, whatever the situation was, those guys rose to that occasion. I think it is fair to say, offensively, that this Penn State, these guys who Penn State needs to be at their absolute best to reach the goals that they've set for themselves, have not been there yet. They just haven't. Are there mitigating factors? Are there things that are involved in that, including Andy Kolonicki not designing a game plan around beating the opponent? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. But in terms of the passes and the plays that Drew is capable of making, he has shown it, right? Like there's video evidence of this. People have short memories, but they're not that short. It just happened last year, right? Nick Singleton has had those carries. He has had those receptions and the plays afterward. It is simply about drawing that out of these guys on a more consistent basis. And I do think that it's a message that, fans are, clutching pearls a little bit right now. And some of that is absolutely overblown, but some of it's not. Right? Like there's a little bit of a kick in the rear that I'm sensing is kind of happening with. Yeah, you need depth. You need people to come up from behind, and all of those factors that make you better as a team. Absolutely, those need to happen. But you also need your best players to play their best football, and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Well, nobody's going to really know until another week. So it's like, I mean,
I guess isn't that the point though, Steve? Is some of it is, you're playing the competition that you're playing.
Yep.
Absolutely. But it's also a contested catch, right? It's also picking the right hole, right? Like it's these moments that you only get so many of a game. Like it's just more is being asked of these guys. Like, hey, Drew, you can be better, right? Nick, absolutely. Like they can be better than they have been. I do think that a big part of this conversation that's way overblown is, for the most part, absent the home run, Nick has been the same player that he's always been.
I know. Believe me, I'm well aware.
He's always been 4 yards a carry with these huge splash plays in his burst.
Yep. Oh, no. I've called all the games. I know that. I've called every run he's made. What's interesting is they've got an Oregon team that they'll play Oregon State this week, and Oregon State is, the programs is, look, when Jonathan Smith, an alumnus, the program means everything to him, and the second they're out of the Pac-12, he sees the writing on the wall. He took the Michigan State job. That tells you everything about where Oregon State is right now. So, look, they'll win the game by 3 to 4 touchdowns. They have played one game so far on the road. They have 2 new tackles. They're coming off a game at Northwestern where they did not commit a single penalty in the game. 0. Mm-hmm. I would also like to point out that the attendance was 12,023.
Yeah.
This is going to be very interesting to see how they handle the noise here in Beaver Stadium.
Yeah, it's in the same vein of what I said about knowing it when you see it. If you haven't ever seen it, then you can't know it, and it's different, and everybody acknowledges that. I do expect a team of that caliber, with the experiences that it has had. And granted, every team is different, right? But Oregon was really good last year, and there was plenty of carryover. You don't know what the quarterback, right? That's different. His receivers are different. Like there are pieces of that team that didn't carry over.
Yeah, and the 2 tackles, right,
for sure. But it's that is the beauty and the curse of a game of this caliber at this point in the season. Is there is no middle ground really for either one of these teams, right? In terms of that appetizer, West Virginia,
right?
You just haven't had that. So it's going to be interesting to see how well they live up to what is being said about them and has been said about them for the past 9 months.
Yeah, no, they are really talented. I mean, we all saw that in the Big Ten championship game last year. I mean, I know how good Whittington is, Kenyon Sadiq. You know how good Uyunglele is, Bryce Batchelor. That's Tiedemann I thought was terrific at Purdue. I mean, they're a really good team. But the communication part of it is going to be interesting because that's what really impressed the Ohio State game last year. And I know it was a noon game. But that crowd's going insane. It's loud, it's wild and crazy. And not one time, not once, did Ohio State move early in the game. I was so impressed by that.
Yep. Well, you know that Oregon's going to prep all week, right? For this, and I would be stunned if they haven't been prepping for it for weeks plural, right? That they will have an idea and a plan for how to handle all that goes into this, right? All that goes into a night game at Beaver Stadium with everybody hyped up as much as they're going to be.
Yeah. What have you learned on the positive side about this team so far?
It's not as hard as the long drawn out break that I just had, but defensively, they're still who they are. I think that that top line of linebackers is better maybe than people would have anticipated, right? Amari Campbell's transition and Tony Rojas healthy, right? We all knew that Tony Rojas healthy was going to be a dramatically different player than who he was last year when he was not. I think the defensive line has been good, right? They're just who you would expect them to be given the amount of returning production that they've had on that side of the ball. And I do think that there have been, like I said, there have been flashes from these receivers, right? They're good possession receivers. Yeah. It's just a matter of unlocking, some of those that next level from them. The question or the demands that are being asked of Trevor Pena, Devontae Ross, and Kyron Hudson are different this year at Penn State than at any point in their careers. Ever. Right? Like, they've never been asked to be the guys that they're being asked to be right now. I do think also, and not that this is in any way being overshadowed, but Katron is different. That offseason of work has tremendously helped him. I think it's still the difference between, and I'm going to contradict myself immediately. He did have a 67-yard carry. He did, but that's not really what it's about. It's about 12 turning into 20, right? It is his normal carries, his standard carries, being able to be faster by that tenth of a second. That gets him to the next level, right? You don't have to outrun the whole team. You gotta be able to eke out more, maximize the opportunities that you have, and I think he's been very decisive, looks quicker, just the whole package has been good from Katron so far this year.
Yeah, no question about that. I think everybody always assumes there's always this great carryover from one season to the next. And Russ Rose, all the times I talked with him over the years, he had that run in the early 2000s where they won 4 straight titles, 3 of which with a lot of the same individuals. Alicia Glass was the setter, Megan Hodge was the primary hitter. And he said to me, he says, Steve, the toughest thing I have to do is convince them that you're a brand new team this year, that you're 0-0, and you have to, it's a fresh slate. that you're not going to have any dividends from last season that carries over. We've seen with Texas, we've seen Notre Dame, we've seen with Clemson. Like, there has not been that carry over with them to this point.
Yeah, it's and I apologize because I feel like I'm making this up because I cannot find who said it to me or when they said it to me. But at some point this summer, I had a conversation that included the sentiment that Penn State's players wanted to wake up, right, and it be the semifinal of the college football playoff.
Yeah.
They wanted to be back. They wanted to be back at that point of the disappointment last year, right, to get another shot at that. And you can talk about 1-0 and, trusting the process. Like, all of those things are great ideas, and they are really the foundation of what the program is built on. But you're still human. It's hard. It is hard to come at this with a fresh mindset for all of the guys that made the decision to come back and to have this extra opportunity this season. But it is the point is one that is necessary and is true, and it's one that I think I will say this. I think human nature says, forget the semifinal of the college football playoff. It is hard to get up for the caliber of teams that Penn State has played so far this season, right? You just for most of those guys, the outcome of the game is not in doubt. You want to play your best, absolutely, but is there a gear that is accessible that hasn't been accessed yet? Yeah, I think very much so.
Yeah. Hey, I just need you to beat John Rahm next week, okay? I don't care if it's 1 up, 2 up, 2-1, whatever it happens to be. That's what you need to do. You have to understand what your job is.
Well, listen, my job is to break 80. That's it. I'm not going to help Team USA. I'm going to help Nate Bauer reduce his handicap and be the best golfer I can be by the end of the season.
Look, as long as Rahm shoots 81, I'm happy.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, my friend. Great to talk with you.
Appreciate it, Steve. See you.
Nate Bauer on 3.com, Blue White Illustrated. Half hour brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors. 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia. Routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And online at sunburymotors.com. Ford Kia Hyundai, best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. Terrific service department. Quick lane inspections. Routine, difficult. They handle them all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia. Routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Boy. So I was asking somebody earlier today, I said, what is the Fox game next week? Because Penn State's going to play Oregon in prime time. And this past week, for example, Oregon and Northwestern, that was the big noon kickoff game. So it kicked off at 11 a.m. Central Time and 9 in the West. And and I said, well, because, it's great that this is the whiteout game. This is the kind of game you want to be the whiteout game. We'll see what the result is. But, fans are so excited about the fact that this is the night game, that this is the whiteout game since it's been announced. They've been excited about it. So my question was, why wasn't it a big noon kickoff game? What did they pick? And I guess they picked, I think they worked it out so Oregon and Penn State could be in prime time. I think they wanted that. Let's start with that part. It ended up being USC against Illinois in Champaign. I admit, I was a little surprised. I was like, okay. So there you are. I was just wondering. But that's the game. That is the game. USC, Illinois is the big noon kickoff game. Penn State and Oregon end up in primetime. Now, if you're wondering about Oregon State, the game is at Oregon Saturday. And because it's at Oregon, that makes it a Big Ten broadcast, and BTN will have the game. And I think it kicks off at 3 o'clock. I do believe.
I wonder if they were hoping that maybe Lincoln Riley figured it out a little bit and USC would be ranked by the time we get to the end of September.
What is their record? Are they undefeated?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't think they've lost a game. No, I don't think they've lost a game. But, yeah, the Oregon State game is at 3 o'clock. And it's at Autzen. So that's interesting. That's 3 o'clock Eastern time, by the way. So noon there. Yeah.
It kind of shows you where what they think about it at this point, too, if they're kicking their rivalry game off at noon.
Yeah, but see, again, the rivalry, to be honest with you, it's two in-state teams, Corvallis and Eugene. I think the way it goes is Portland is on the Washington border. Corvallis is halfway between Portland and Eugene. Eugene's to the south. They aren't separated by that much. But it's a rivalry in name only. It's just Oregon State doesn't have the talent that Oregon State doesn't have talent that Oregon has. They just don't. And that's a 3 to 4 touchdown game. It's a Mountain West. It's a Mountain West opponent. It's a Mountain West opponent. It's with all due respect, it's almost to the point of Penn State plays Temple. How about that? It's about where they are.
I was going to say, and it's not a good Mountain West team right now.
No, they're not. They're not. It should be a relatively easy game. You've got to win the game. Winning's hard. Look, winning's hard. We know that. But, it's Oregon State's not in the same level as Oregon is. And sometimes it's that simple. They just aren't. They have to win the game. They can't turn the ball over or anything like that. But they're coming off a game where they won at Northwestern. So that's a Big Ten game. Credit where credit's due for winning a conference game. And doing that. Okay, no question. They can do that. And that's a big part of this, that they can do it. But when you look at the game itself, it's a road test in that you have to travel. So you have to fly across half the country to get there. It's a road test in that you're playing in somebody else's stadium. Understand that. It's a road test in that you're playing at 9 o'clock in the morning local time. Talking about 9 o'clock Pacific time. So that makes it a test. But in terms of a volume test, the attendance last week was 12,023 because, remember, there's only X amount of – I think they can only get 15,000 seats into the soccer area in the temporary stadium they have as they're building the new Ryan Field. And I think that is that's something like 12,023 is not like the noise test. You can pump in all the noise you want, try and make it as difficult as possible. I wouldn't doubt Oregon even uses its indoor facility to get noise in there. But you're not going to be able to duplicate what it's like being in Beaver Stadium. I mean, they justifiably are very proud, and I mean justifiably very proud of the noise that they get at Autzen Stadium, the way it's constructed with that roof over the seats and so forth that keeps the noise in. But that's also 60,000 seats. And in talking with Brian Tripp, look, we think we're going to get this corrected by the time we get to the Oregon game because Pat Kraft and I have talked about this. We're trying to get the window out of the booth. So, like, we've got everything there in front of us. Okay. But so Brian's on the field, so he's getting the full effect of the crowd standing over there. And he says, he's told Jack and I, he says, you guys won't believe it. I said, it's even louder with those seats up there now. We're like, really? Now, I can't get a feel for that because we're enclosed. That's why I want the window out. And it's something, look, Pat and I talked about it a couple times in the preseason. And when Pat's the one that brought it up to me. We were standing in the tunnel on Saturday, and he brought it up, and I said, no. Well, I said, Pat, the window's not out yet. He looked at me and goes, what? He said, what do you mean it's not out? I said, well, it's not out. Right? I said, should I go to a higher power? He's laughing at me. He says, maybe you should. He says, I thought I had some. No, we're laughing about it. So we're both kidding with each other because Pat and I kid a lot with each other. And we're kidding about it. But then he seriously says, Steve, he says, look, this is a bye. We got to get that thing out of there for you guys. Because, as a broadcast, you want a clear view. Plus, you want the noise and the atmosphere being absorbed in the booth. I mean, you want that. But that's why I had to reference Brian, because Brian's the one at least is standing on the field. And from his vantage point of standing on the field, he said, you guys would be surprised. It's even louder right now. Now, whether that's true or not, I'll take Brian's word anytime.
I'm not sure if I know a broadcaster or a journalist that likes that window in the press box in there.
That likes the window closed?
Yeah, that likes it closed.
No, nobody does.
I was going to say it has to be pretty darn cold for it to be closed in a high school press box.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, Jack and I have done some real. I mean, that SMU game was about as cold as it gets.
Yeah.
And we were perfectly fine. We always had the window open. I mean, the two coldest games I can recall the two of us ever broadcasting together would be that SMU game in the playoff last December. And then we did a game at Indiana in 2002 where Larry Johnson broke the school record with 327 yards rushing. And it was really cold that day, too. Now, the SMU game was colder, but it was really cold that day. Now, the coldest one I ever was a part of was Penn State Notre Dame in 1987, and I was the third announcer on the broadcast. I was not the play-by-play guy or the color guy. I was the third guy, the host, back then. And I remember going down to the field with 5 minutes to go because part of the job of being the third person was I was the one that did the post-game interview with Joe. So I went down to the field with about 4 or 5 minutes to go, and I'm down there thinking, oh, my goodness, I couldn't believe how cold it was. Because even up in the booth, you're shielded from wind. I mean, for the most part, you're shielded from wind and things like that. And there's at least some heat in the booth. And this booth that we're in now, we've never had an air conditioner before. We've only, all the years I've been up there, we always just had a rotary fan that moved the air around. So, I mean, there's an air conditioner up there, which is nice. Because I got out of the booth on Saturday, and I said to Jackson, geez, it's warm out here. So obviously, I mean, the booth has heat, so it's not like it doesn't. But, we want you just feel like you're a part of it when the window's open instead of feeling like you're sitting in the studio doing it. Now, that's the reason why. But I only reference the window part only because I can't gauge fan noise until but Brian can, because Brian's on the field and he can gauge it.
Hey, Steve, Doug from Wellsboro just called. He didn't want to go on the air. He just wanted to know who was on the coach's show tonight.
Greg Gattuso will be joining us, and the women's golf coach will be joining us this evening. So that's who we have. And I am going to talk to Greg about Jared Verse.
Oh, yeah, Greg, I forgot he was at Albany. Yeah.
This is why I'm here, Todd. I can do these things. Right? I mean, you covered it back then. When Jared Verse was in high school, the impression I got was that he was a good high school player, but he was a good high school player.
This sounds like I'm brilliant, brilliant in hindsight, but he's one of those kids that I watched play, especially in basketball. You could see the athleticism. It was just a matter. He was one of those kids that wasn't, when he was, I think we know a lot of kids like this. When they're 14, 15, and 16, they haven't quite matured yet. And he hadn't angry is probably not the right word, but he didn't control his emotions real well in high school. And once, I think once he got all that stuff figured out and matured, he became kind of the guy that he is now. Yeah.
Well, Greg had him for 2 years up at Albany. Kristen Simpson, by the way, is the Penn State women's golf coach. She'll be on the first half hour, then Greg the last half hour. Then we'll talk. I'll talk about Jared Verse because Greg, of course, was on the 82 national championship team. It's very rare a defensive tackle has 3 interceptions in his career, which he did. But then he got into coaching, and he coached at Duquesne. Then he went to Albany, and now he's come back here. Now, I know what it means coming back here because when I talked to him in the spring, he says, Steve, it's like a dream come true. But, he's then we'll talk about the defensive line and especially the defensive tackles, which he works so hard with. So we'll talk about all that with Greg tonight on the show. And so, but that is tonight's show. Kristen Simpson, women's golf, followed by Greg Gattuso.
Didn't he replace Joe Walton at Duquesne? Isn't that where Joe Walton finished his career, wasn't he? Head coach there for a while.
He was there, yeah. Yeah.
Because I think 1 year Duquesne came here to play Bucknell, and Joe Walton was the coach, and then the next time they came, Greg was the coach.
Yeah. Yeah. So
because people get excited around here when the next Penn State guy comes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you got women's soccer tonight with Nebraska here. Men's soccer with Indiana tomorrow. Women's volleyball with Princeton tomorrow. Field hockey Sunday, Kent State. Women's volleyball, Central Michigan. Sunday, women's soccer with Wisconsin. And then Sunday and Monday will be the Nittany Lion Women's Golf Invitational on the blue course. And then next week, I can tell you who the guests will be next week. Next Thursday night, leading into Oregon, James Franklin will be there, and the first half hour will be Katie Schumacher-Cawley. Okay? There you go.
I was going to say winners.
Yeah, I think that may work out pretty well for the crowd. That'll get the crowd juiced up. Yeah. That'll get the crowd all fired up. Just getting Coach Katie in there. She's beloved. They've had to go through a couple of things off the floor, which have been not easy for all parties to deal with. On the floor, it's affected their play somewhat. But, hey, they lost a tough 1-4 last night to Pitt. But, they don't have a key player out there, and that's, but there's good reasons for that. So, yeah. So we'll talk to Coach Katie about all that next week. I don't think Oregon's staying here next week. I think they're staying in Altoona.
Is that normal?
Extremely abnormal.
Oh, I was, yeah.
No, extremely abnormal. Mostly either a lot of teams over the years have stayed at the Ramada, which is down the street from me, or now they've been staying at the Wyndham out by the Mountain View Golf Course on 45, the old Elks Country Club. Yeah.
I mean, it's all interstate now, but that's still not a short trip.
Maybe they just don't want to. Maybe they just didn't want to be a part of the. Let's stay away from all this. I mean, look, Joe was famous for Penn State's playing Notre Dame. Do you think Penn State stayed in South Bend? No, they stayed in Michigan City, right? They stayed when they first started playing Notre Dame. They actually stayed in Elkhart. Then they started staying in Michigan City. Well, Michigan City's in Central Time. South Bend's in Eastern Time. Did I ever tell you the George Paterno story?
No.
Okay, so it's John Sanders, George Paterno, and I. We're the three announcers, so I'm the third guy. And the game was, I think, at noon or something like that, and John had a car. John Sanders, one of the greatest guys ever. One of the greatest guys ever, John Sanders, my friend forever. Right? So George comes up to the two of us and he says, Steve, John, he says, what time are we going to leave tomorrow? Right? And so John says, what do we think, Steve, 7:30 tomorrow? Because, we had to make a little trip here, right? And George says, oh, no, wait a minute. It's 7:30 here, 7:30 there, 7:30. He's going around, and we're like, what? Right? So I just gently took George's hand. I pointed at his watch and said, George, when your watch says 7:30, we're leaving. He goes, okay. Because leaving, I don't know what he had it set to. I can't remember what it was, but we left at 7:30. I think we left at 7:30 Central Time, right? And then took 80 over, but Joe was notorious for not staying close. Okay. So I don't. Dan Lanning doesn't want to stay in State College. He wants to stay in Altoona. Fine. That's it. It's not as if I've never seen that before.
It's still going to be. It's still 45 minutes, even with an escort, isn't it?
Oh, sure it is.
Yeah.
Well, I remember Penn State playing Alabama. One time we stayed in Birmingham. Another time we stayed in Bessemer, Bo Jackson's hometown. We stayed in Bessemer. Like, okay. We weren't staying in Tuscaloosa. I think one time we stayed in Tuscaloosa for football. We stayed in Tuscaloosa for basketball. But one time we stayed in Tuscaloosa for football. Other times were Birmingham, Bessemer. Okay. So believe me, if he wants to stay in Altoona, hey, look, I've done this long enough. I remember some of the trips I had to make in my lifetime, and some of them weren't close, okay? Which is fine.